You should recognize each of these math terms and symbols as cues to a type of particular math problem that you'll be encountering. If you see the square root of 2 in a question, look for a 45-45 right triangle. And then you apply the 45-45 rule, which is side, side, side square root 2. And remember, both tests like to include 45-45 right triangles in circles, with the radius being the side. If you see the square root of 3 in a question, there's usually a 30-60 right triangle involved. And you'll apply the 30-60 rule, which is short side times the square root of 3, and twice the short side. And this one can be pretty obvious, but when you see the pi sign, look for a circle.
The area of a circle is pi r squared.
And the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r, or pi times the diameter. And anytime you see a triangle that doesn't have a right angle involved, and it doesn't give you any angles, they're asking if you know the sum of any two sides of a triangle must exceed the third side. So add up the sides you're given and find out what answer won't work. And you really want to look for the 3-4-5 right triangle, or that ratio. These show up on standardized tests all the time, and they even show up in terms of cosine and sine. So remember the relationship of the 3-4-5 right triangle. And remember that it's a 3-4-5 right triangle, but that ratio also exists. So you can have like a 6-8-10. And anytime they ask you a question about a shaded area of two geometric regions, you're going to find that value by subtracting one geometric form from another. And if they ask you questions about perpendicular lines, as in what you might encounter with the corners of a square or a rectangle, remember that the product of the slopes of two perpendicular lines is negative. And remember, when they give you a line parallel to the side or base of a triangle, they're creating similar triangles. So the sides, areas, etc. will be in proportion, and you'll be able to calculate that with the ratios. And remember, it's crucial when you see a word problem, especially a wordy one, to get the numbers out of the words. That's the only way you can find your answer and not spend a lot of time looking at the question. And remember, with the combination problems, you can use the factorial frequently. And the key to solving an abstract question where they are using a lot of letters instead of numbers is to reverse it. Substitute numbers in for the letters so you can make it make sense. And remember, change in average problems are always vulnerable if you take them out to the totals. You want to get the total of the average. That way you can identify the cause of the change. And when you see percentage problems, remember that the majority of the time you'll want to work on the percentage side. And when you have a ratio problem, when they give you the ratio and the total, what you have to do is calculate or find the factor that increases that ratio to get you to the total, or decreases that ratio to get you to the total. And when you have a split numerator, remember that the denominator applies to both sides of the numerator. And remember, when they ask you a remainder question, they're asking if you realize there's an actual number left over when you do the division, not a decimal.